gentlemen, DFC 6 continues with your pro card. Your first bout on the pro card will be going down inside the DFC Professional Bantamweight Division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, this is Patricio, the Pikey King Ferguson.
Yeah, very interesting way to get started.
Absolutely. Also a All-American wrestler. Been training for a long time in a lot of different arts. I believe we have almost 20 years of wrestling, 12 years of boxing, and 9 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he's a man after my own heart here with a favorite technique, chokes.
Yeah, chokes get it done.
Chokes. I enjoy that kind of mindset.
Man, 20 years of wrestling experience. That's a long damn time.
Absolutely. Now, this is a man that is fighting basically up in weight class a little bit, right?
Yeah. He normally fights at 125. I say that. He's had several fights at 135, which is what tonight's fight's at. But we'll say 125 flyweight is his home weight class. He is 3-1 at flyweight. 0-2 at 135.
Opponent fighting out of the red corner. This is Donzeill, the Black Dragon Marshall.
Now, Mr. Marshall, 1-2 as a pro, but comes in with a ton of experience as 8-0 as an amateur. A lot of fights coming out.
Yeah, Donzeill Marshall also just. Unfortunately didn't get to see it from Solomon Wilson earlier, but I would say Donzeill Marshall very similar and incredibly athletic. So it didn't come to pass earlier, but this kid, I'm telling you, I've seen some of the craziest transitions of all time watching his fight. Unbelievable, like, didn't know the human body could do this type thing. Kid is insane.
That's the one thing about these lower weight classes. The men can be very powerful.
Yeah, Donzeill Marshall, his one pro win, beautiful 9-second head kick knockout, just perfectly timed. His opponent kind of left his head out there a little too far, leaned a little bit too far forward. Donzeill Marshall just switched stances, just threw the head kick, knocked him out cold in 9 seconds in the first round.
Absolutely, and one thing I'll say about that, he did.
Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, this bout going down inside the DFC Professional Bantamweight Division. It is set for 3 5-minute rounds, and when the action begins, the man in charge, Mr. Basil Bam Bam Maju. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, this man is a Mexican ground karate practitioner representing Unity Training Center. Standing at 5'7", weighing in at 136 pounds. From Guadalajara, Mexico, this is Patricio, the Pikey King Ferguson. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, this man is a mixed martial artist representing the Performance Evolution Fight Team. Standing at 5'7", weighing in at 135 pounds. From Lake Charles, Louisiana, this is Donzeill, the Black Dragon Marshall.
put his left foot back on the ground, but they're kind of resetting the position now, working from the guard.
Going for the short elbows. Really seems to be a big fan of the overhook.
Yeah, he does, which I'm a big fan of that as well. I did some different attacks for it, but he's trying to stand up with it, trying to almost do a throw by with the overhook from the guard. I don't think I've ever seen this technique before.
Well, I've definitely seen it standing.
Yeah, not from the guard, though.
Not from the guard. It's an interesting idea in transition, but got himself caught in a guillotine.
Yeah, Marshall turns the tables. Ferguson doing a good job keeping heavy weight on that arm, on the shoulder, and not on his neck. And also,
and lands
again,
on top in the guillotine.
Yeah.
Now is in a north-south position, transitioning. 45 seconds left in the round.
Yeah, good job from Marshall framing that arm away, not letting Ferguson have too much like top control. Looking at almost
going for the reverse. Yep, reverse triangle.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely possible. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but it also looks kind of deep. And looking to attack the close arm as well while he has the control with his legs. So yeah,
but the step over kind of stops that. But you're right, there is a Kimura attempt from that position.
Yeah.
I think that's actually more realistic than the reverse triangle
Yeah,
itself.
now that I see the angle's a bit off here. He doesn't really have any pressure on the neck of Ferguson at all. So Ferguson is pretty much just being controlled with the legs right there and not being choked. His head's just kind of stuck in that position as he slips it out as I say that.
9 seconds left in the round. Again with the guillotine position. Does he go for a caveman necktie? No. I thought he was going to transition to the caveman there.
Yeah, good solid first round. I would say Marshall, I mean, it was very close. I think Marshall, edged it out with a little more top control time. But it was mostly just grappling, not very much damage. But to be fair, Ferguson did have the strong guillotine attempt, was maybe closer to finishing the fight.
Initiated the takedown, but got reversed.
Yeah, he did initiate it, but again, like you said, immediately reversed. But he was kind of deep on the guillotine for a while. I'm leaning, personally, I'm not a judge, I'm leaning Marshall a close first round, barely edged it out with top control. But
Ferguson ended the round on top,
He
right?
did, yeah.
So there's a lot of judges that see that and call it that way. So, coin toss,
I will say,
gentlemen.
I mean, I've never judged fights before. We are getting deep into the night. I know as I go through the day at my job, I get more tired and start making mistakes. It was something that close. I mean, it was not an obvious, I don't think, who won that round.
Difficult to call.
Yeah, maybe you kind of lose focus a little bit. And even if you are fully focused, it was still a very close round. So I would expect we're going to try to see a little more trying to establish.
Looks to be a striking.
Yeah, both of them throwing some big punches to get that round started.
Using the knee to try to keep away the takedown.
Yeah, Ferguson getting deep and low on those hips. I think he's going to get him to the ground here, but I mean, Donzeill Marshall, like I said, very athletic.
Marshall countering on the sprawl.
Yeah, kind of looking to control the leg of Ferguson. Again, if you control the legs, they can't generate power. They need their legs to generate the power they use for their offense. No matter if it's stand-up, ground, whatever, you need your legs to connect to the ground.
Of course, if he did high school wrestling and beyond, though, this is not an unusual position for a wrestler.
Right.
To be still broken in what we consider bottom turtle now.
Yeah, and Marshall looking at the switch position and also landing some good elbows to the side of the head here. And I will say that is not a spot you want to take elbows to. Very easy to get knocked out from there, get cut open. Side of the head, very vulnerable to strikes.
And now, one thing of note, he's on his hip, and what's behind his hip? The cage. Where can you go but through your opponent, and now you have no leverage.
Yeah, Ferguson's head dropped down heavy into the mat here. I don't see how he's going to turn this advantageously for himself.
And as you say it, he gets his back taken.
Yeah, good job from Marshall there. Look, is he going into the triangle here? It's hard to see from this angle. I can't tell.
I think you're right. I think that's a triangle attempt.
And I think this might be deep. I mean, just looking, we're kind of have the same view as the camera here, but no, he slips off. But now it's in a traditional
right
triangle.
Into a traditional triangle.
Now let's see if he controls the head here. In my opinion, the most important thing here is to control the head and keep it close to your body. But he's looking to attack the arm himself.
Yeah, it looks like maybe he favors triangle positions with Kimura attempts.
I am so surprised at this. I feel like if he just controlled the head, kept it close to his hips, he would be able to transition into a traditional triangle here. But I'm super surprised that he lost that in the way he did.
And is now on bottom half.
Yeah, and now very flattened out at this point. Patrick Ferguson in complete control. Donzeill Marshall, if Ferguson decides to, I think it's going to be easy to grind the round out from this position.
And has the loop through back to the half Nelson, the one-handed Nelson there. Very tough position from half guard. Oh, look at that. Marshall showing a level of athleticism and commitment there.
As we mentioned, just insane athleticism. I did not think he was going to be able to turn that around like he did. And now here we are with Donzeill Marshall, the Black Dragon himself, on top. Opponent pinned against the cage, trying to find a way out.
And the Pikey King, both hands on the mat, usually a sign of fatigue.
Yeah, I think he's trying to build a base to get up here, but Donzeill Marshall, so important, staying glued to the hips. If you see him start sliding up the body to the, we'll say more to the underhook and the armpit, I will say he's probably not getting the takedown. The more you see him glued to the hips, like the right arm is wrapped around the body there, the more likely he is to re-secure a takedown right here.
Patrick using a knee to try to, and is looping through on the hand. Is he trying to find a switch?
Yeah, he's looking to reverse that. And a lot of pressure on Marshall here with that shoulder crank.
Yep. Is it the 100%? Is that what it's called?
I believe that, yeah. It's not a move I use, but I believe that's it. But I like this nice little hook from the top half guard from Marshall to kind of hold the Pikey King in position here. Really sticking him in that position, staying on the hips. Good wrestling even from Donzeill Marshall here. Who
both men showing very high level takedowns, grappling, control.
Yeah, I would like to see Marshall maybe throw some right hands. Like he's in a position where he can use the shoulder and the left side of his body to keep the weight on his opponent and use the right hands to kind of land some free shots, I believe. But nice.
Using a quick switch, and I will say so far Marshall winning this round a little more cleanly in my opinion so far.
Yeah, this is looking fairly one-sided for Marshall, other than an early half guard position from the Pikey King.
Framing out, looking to find another way to stand up. 45 seconds left.
Yeah, Marshall looking, I think he's looking for that arm tie, that kind of wrist ride, but the Pikey King getting back to his back, not giving him that arm, looking to pummel an underhook through, try to sit up, make some space. I will say I would like to see a little more damage. There's a lot of control for Marshall here. I would like to see him squeeze in some more damage. He definitely has the opportunity to, but Patrick Ferguson looking for some damage from the bottom, some big elbows.
Yep, enticed a big overhand right, and sometimes you do things like that to try to make your opponent throw a punch so that you can move again.
Yeah, he does seem a bit stuck here on the bottom, and that's one thing I've seen. I know he has a lot of wrestling experience, but I will say I've seen in some of his previous fights him being taken down, him being controlled. Whenever he is able to kind of establish his top position, he does well, but his opponents also seem to have the ability to do that to him as well.
Absolutely. So I believe we're now possibly a 1-1 going into the third round. Now, when that being the case, what do you tell each corner? What do you tell Mr. Marshall?
Yeah, so, I mean, it depends on your game plan kind of coming in and how well you know your fighter. I don't know these guys like their coaches do, but assuming Ferguson won the first round, which was very close, I think that, Marshall won the second. So, at very least, you're tied, but you don't – we'll say if you're Marshall's corner, we'll say you're tied. And if you're Ferguson's corner, you'll say you're down. So, Ferguson's corner, I would say is coaching to finish. However they see the best pathway to do that. It hasn't worked so far on the ground. I would try to, if I was Ferguson's corner, I would look for the stand-up. I would look to try to at least attempt some striking. He has very clean boxing. If he chooses to stand up, I've seen it in his past fights, he has very clean boxing. I would like to see him try to stand up and land some big strikes in this third round.
And that would be a way to ensure a round is yours before you go in.
As I say, Marshall with the clean check right hook puts Ferguson on his butt.
And Ferguson was throwing a relatively clean punch, just MMA gloves.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing about Marshall. He is so clean on his spacing, his timing to land those counter shots. Like we said on that head kick knockout, just so perfect and pristine with his spacing and distance management. And you saw it right there with the right hand. He's incredibly good at pulling that kind of maneuver off.
So got the knockdown, got his opponent against the cage now. Open guard, can probably step through relatively easily here, but Ferguson wrapping up his upper body, trying to make that, not feel like a comfortable thing to do.
Yeah, like you said, I do think Marshall could probably make some space and look to either posture and throw punches from here or stand up and separate and basically welcome Ferguson back up to the feet and see if he can do some more damage from there.
Absolutely. I think that's the one name of the game here in this fight is we only have the one knockdown, but hardly any stand-up at all.
Yeah, it's been very surprisingly wrestling heavy from these two. As we see Marshall here with that leg hook, trying to pull Ferguson back down to the ground, wrapped around the waist. Very strong wrestling from him. I'm not sure if he has, like, we'll say wrestling experience from school, but I would say definitely in his gym, they seem to be working these kind of positions because he seems very strong from here.
Yeah, especially the fact that the head's under the chin there, seems to be driving up, seems to be a position he has drilled and at before for sure.
Yeah, I do wish, like, I think there's a lot more opportunity here than we see from him, that he could land more damage and more, like, impactful strikes. So maybe it's just something he needs to develop a little more. And maybe I'm making it sound easier than it is. Of just
well,
hit it.
The one thing I'll give
Ferguson
Ferguson is even here, like, so one thing to note with Ferguson is he's in a switch position.
Right.
So, it could be that every time Williams finds himself moving, Ferguson's trying these little moves, and for those who don't know the switch, if he was to be successful on this switch right now, he would take the back.
Yeah, and he's starting to build some base. You see that right foot kind of coming behind him. If he's able to kind of basically plant that behind him, he's going to be able to generate enough power to kind of stand up and make some space and reverse this position. But, yeah, Donzeill Marshall doing a good job still grinding this down. And as you said, he's respecting the wrestling of Ferguson himself. He knows that if he gives him too much space, then he's going to be able to reverse this and put him in danger. So, he's worried more about control than anything right now.
Absolutely. Looks like Ferguson, again, trying to create a frame. Williams just pulling him into the deep waters at this point.
And as you said, using that head against the chin, really pushing, splaying his opponent out, pushing his head, making it where he can't get down and generate any offensive power from the bottom.
Taking the shots where he can in order to make sure this is his round.
Yeah, well, right here, I do, like, again, I would like to see him open up a bit more. And you can always go back to the hips. You can always go back to, like, how he's pinching the legs here and reestablish that as your opponent starts to make an escape. But you have him so pinned here, I do think that you can generate some more offense.
Absolutely. All right, and as they stand against the cage here, one thing of note, normally, there we go.
I think that's a good separation. Yeah, it was a bit, I would say maybe even long. It's hard to even think about that, like, talking about the fight. But I would say even long time he let him work on the ground there.
All right.
Ferguson looking to change levels again. Nose a bit bloodied.
A little bit, yep, from the punch early probably. Oh. Question mark kick, Superman punch.
And the right hand from Donzeill Marshall. I think he might be about to stop this. And Basil Bam Bam Maju. Marshall gets it done in the third round. Heavy grinding performance for the first 2.5, and then finally lands the quick TKO as soon as they get back up to the feet in the third.
Absolutely. And there was enough knockdowns there that it didn't take much more damage to call that fight.
Yeah, it could have gone on a little longer, but also I don't know that it should have. Ferguson was not really not really establishing his position any better. It's kind of just turned away, taking the punches. I think that's a fair stoppage.
Absolutely.
As you see here on the replay, Marshall landing that clean right hand, putting his opponent on his back. Ferguson kind of just getting his head bounced around.
Round number 3, declaring a winner by TKO due to strikes, fighting out of the corner, Donzeill, the Black Giant.
Marshall!